Oh my goodness, what have I done? Well, I guess taking the rear tail off to start with. That would be pretty obvious. And why? Well, that's why I'm going to be fitting black round tips instead of the square. Much prefer the black. Again, like my Camaro, this is a real black and red car. No chrome, other than maybe the rings on the wheels. But at the back of the car, it's got the black inserts on the red paint, and yeah, much prefer to have black pipe tips as well. So have to grind the welds off, which are on the top and the bottom of those tips. They actually act as resonators too, so apparently the exhaust will have a slightly louder tone, because you can see the holes, they act as a resonator. And I know they are effective in acting as a resonator because that's how my exhaust system works in my Tirana. It's purely straight through with those resonator wool packed mufflers, and this is pretty weighty. It feels like it's probably packed as well with sound absorbent material. So yeah, without touching any exhaust, just the tips, you probably get a completely different sound. Taking the rear off is pretty straightforward. There's the screws across the top. They are Torx screws, but they all run across the top. Be careful because there are spaces, obviously, to pack the rear of the car to make it get straight lines. So they're packed across the top, and some, but not all, of the there's two there. You can see a bit of an imprint where they were. There was none there. It looks like there was one there, so I might have dropped one. Anyway, the bolts across the top, or screws. It's best off to take the wheels off to start with, so you can get the wheel liners off. Again, the wheel liners have a whole bunch of Torx screws and a couple of the pop-out plugs. I think there's 3 or 4 of those, and the rest are Torx screws. The mud flap, it pops out with 3 clip-in plugs, but the mud flap comes out of the rear of the wheel arch, and that enables you to get inside to undo 2 screws, which are here and here. That's the nut side of it, and then there's one nut that goes through and bolts up against this thread. That's the hardest one to get to, but not on this side. If you compare that to the other side, so imagine the tail piece is still on. That's the nut there, and you've got to try and get your hand up through here and get to that nut with something. Socket's not going to do it because there's not enough space in here, because the guard comes straight down and just misses all of this, so you're dealing with a very tight little space. So the only way I could do it was with a ratchet spanner. Thank God I had this one because it worked perfectly, but that was the only thing that I could do. And very small little arcs, just basically that amount of swing until I could get the nut off. So that is extremely difficult. This is a charcoal canister, I think, possibly for fuel vapors from what I can tell. I could get one bolt out to take it out, but then the other one again right up the back there, so it sort of prevents you being able to take this piece out to get up to this. So just have to deal with that as it comes. But yeah, with the wheel arches out, it gives you a good chance to see all through. You've got the back of the radiators, the cooling fans, you've got the exhaust system in there, the suspension, all of the subframe, the cradle for the engine. So it makes for some interesting viewing for people that are into that stuff. And again, you'll see the welds that I've got to take out here and underneath. just grind those off and take the tips off before I put the new black tips in. Anyway, back into it. So a bit of progress. I've taken the pipes off, sorry, the tips I should say. They've all been ground off, just the welds ground off without taking too much material off the tips, which didn't go too bad. A little bit removed, but easy to weld back on if I need to. And then I've test fitted the black round pipes. Now these are way too long at the moment, they could come back in, but to be honest they actually align pretty well with that piece of plastic that comes out, so I'm wondering if I really need to bring them back that far at all. Now the only problem with these, they are bolt on, so they have a little bolt to tighten up against the flange, the pipe itself, and there's not a lot of material to actually tighten onto. So I think once I'm happy with it, I'll have to get it welded, which will be mild steel to stainless, which isn't a major problem. They're not quite lined up properly there, but you get the general idea of what I'm after. And the colour and the design is exactly what I was going for, so I'm happy with that enough to keep it going. I've just got the back bumper just sitting on at the moment, just to get an idea of how it's looking. So yeah, progress. Just to give you an idea how I've got them attached, you'll see they've got little flange that bolts on, and there is still a gap in here, so I'm going to cut these back. I might have to lose these bolts anyway to cut them back, and yeah, like that's tight as, but it's still moving. That one's even worse because you can see it's a tiny little piece that it bolts onto, so it really needs to be welded, just like the other tip was, and it won't go anywhere once it's welded on. Anyway, moving on. Okay, another day, another dollar. Sunny this time, but bloody windy. But anyway, I haven't started this up yet, but this is just temporary fitting. I've decided I'm going to go to a friend of mine up the road who does exhausts. He's actually just finished doing that one, put an X pipe in it. Sounds very nice. Lovely clearances to everything, and did a great job at a good price. So I'm going to get him to weld tips onto the exhaust so these black tips can actually grip better, because there's not a lot that they're holding on to at the moment, so they're not necessarily going to be there long. So wanted to do a trial start. Have to remember how to do it. Not what I'd call much louder than what it was. Considering those other tips are meant to be resonators with those, it's very heavy actually, with those holes in it. It has a wool pack or something, steel wool pack to actually quieten it down. So the expectation is these will be louder, but obviously not by much. Anyway, they'll be shorter. They're not going to come out that far, even though they're pretty flush with that back piece. I don't want them protruding too much, so I'll cut them back at the same time. Anyway, off to the exhaust place. So finishing off on these tips, I've been driving it for a while now, for a good, I don't know, 500k or so, and very happy with the end result. It's debatable how much louder they make the exhaust. Yep, there's no resonators in them. This is a single skin tip, so it's just got a roll on the end, but it doesn't have an inner layer. I think I've got a video before I changed the tips from about this distance, so I'll do it from here, and then I'll have to go through my old files to see if I can find it to compare. It's a little loud, that's completely stock.